welcome to the Opinionated Geek Podcast. I am your host, Jonathan Hanna, and this is episode 23. This should be, well, at least we're going to try to make it as short as possible, mainly because it's a day late and I got stuff to actually do. A whole bunch of stuff. Also, getting ready for vacation, so I will point out that it'll be a week and a half vacation. I might try to do something on vacation, like put like a little update out, but I'm not sure. So it's going to be a little while that I might not have anything. Uh, yeah. So anyway, that is basically all I wanted to say about that. Let's get on to what I've been playing, or should I say, what I've been attempting to play. No, not really attempting to play. I've been playing it, but yeah. I've been playing Doom. I started playing Doom, uh, the new one, not the original. Although I was tempted to play the original Doom, but I just figured that since I have played that multiple times and it's still enjoyable to this day, that I would try something else out that I haven't beat. Though I got like 14 hours in and I just stopped playing it. But so I haven't tried the original Doom or the new Doom yet. Hey, how's it going? So we're going to beat that on stream, but obviously with vacation coming up, I will not be able to beat that uh, as soon as I would like. But also, I guess the big thing is I've now got into I guess build up the confidence enough. Although I'm still not confident in it enough, but I am going to be doing my first Dungeons and Dragons adventure with my uh, local gaming party. So it's going to be kind of crazy because I'm not really too. I've always just kind of fumbled with playing characters and stuff, and never really like got into it. I just basically like to enjoy the story more than actually battling and stuff. So we're going to try to do a good job at least bringing the story to life. I've decided, although it's probably the worst decision I could probably pick for my first adventure, but we are playing 5th edition, and I picked up Tomb of Annihilation for my first adventure, and the difficult thing about this module or this adventure is the second part of its sandbox. As a new DM, you probably shouldn't do sandboxy type stuff just because you have to be prepared for anything that might happen. And if you're new to DMing, you might not be prepared for every possible thing that could happen. And usually it'd be good to have a nice adventure that's pretty much a straightforward path. So that's one of the difficult situations, and I kind of feel bad, but right now, as far as 5th edition pre-made adventures are concerned, at least with the official ones anyway, I know there's a whole bunch of adventures on Dungeon Masters Guild that you can probably buy and play, but I wanted something official, and this one's the only one that seemed interesting. I was going to pick, was it King Storm Giant for my first one, but my other party member had bought that and had already kind of got involved with actually making it, and then he bailed out at the last second. So I wanted an adventure that was something I would like, but yet something that nobody knew about. So our one guy, he did the Lost Mines of Fandever, or Fandelvin, whatever, and the other guy was reading into Storm King's Giant. So I was going to pick a couple of them, but I chose the Tomb of Annihilation because it seems to be the majority of it is outside stuff, and I kind of like the outside stuff because it seems like every adventure that I go on with a DM, it's always, let's go into some sort of dungeon or some sort of cave or go to the Underdark. I want to see actual wilderness. Granted, the end obviously is a, it's a tomb, so there is going to be some, you know, what do you call it? Confined spaces that you'll have to deal with. But I liked it because you're basically trudging through jungle. But one of the more difficult things about it is it's got death is permanent with this adventure. So that's what kind of makes it really a big deal. So once your characters die, they're dead. You can't bring them back to life because the whole idea is there is a death curse. So that's the thing I'm a little bit nervous about because obviously as a DM, at least for me, I don't want to kill off my characters. I want them to enjoy the adventure, but you don't want to allow them to make it have an easy adventure. So you kind of just want to challenge them, but not to the point where everybody dies. I would prefer nobody died, but obviously, especially with the early levels, that's kind of difficult. But we're going to try to do it. And one of the things that is going to help me with this, and I know it's probably sacrilegious to some people, especially with a local game, but I'm going to be using Fantasy Grounds software. Now, Fantasy Grounds is designed for far distance playing. So basically, if your friends are on the other side of the country, this allows you to play with them to the best of your ability that you can do it to make it as close as possible to being there. And although it does not have some features that I would kind of like, but there's ways around it. Like, for example, it doesn't have video, so you can't actually see your friends. But of course, you can set up Skype off to the side, or you can use Discord, whatever you prefer. If you wanted to actually do that type of stuff, it's got a chat, but obviously you can use Skype or Discord for your voice chatting if you wish to do that. But what's great about this, there's another program called Roll20 that's a browser-based service. It's also a subscription-based service. Fantasy Grounds does have subscription-based, but it's a piece of software that they allow you to buy a permanent license. And the nice part is, if you are hard up on finding people, though usually what I've come to find out, if nobody actually wants to put forth money, they most likely are going to bail out on you when you actually want to play. Not saying that would happen with everybody, but it's one of the things where if you're willing to invest in something, then you're more likely to continue on with what you had said you were going to. But with Fantasy Grounds, they have two different versions. Well, they got three different versions. They got free, which is basically a demo, but the free's also got a little bonus feature to it, which I'll get to in the last version of the software. And then it's got your regular license, which is only like $40, and that allows you to hook up with other players that also might have the regular license. So if you can get all your party members to spend $40, you can actually all play together. Now that doesn't give you any like the any player's handbook information or anything like that. It gives you some basic roles, the free roles that most of these RPGs give you, and you can download those for free. But if you want like the whole player's handbook or the Dungeon Master's Guide, then you got to pay for it. But if you want, you can literally trudge through manually importing all that stuff in yourself. So you could save a couple bucks, but you're going to take hundreds of hours to import all the information. Or you can spend like the $30 and buy the player's handbook for Fantasy Grounds. and then building a character is almost like drag and drop. It's pretty easy. But the last version is the Ultimate License. The Ultimate License is a hefty price. In fact, I just actually upgraded it. But because there is an upgrade option, which helps you lower the price a little bit if you don't have the money. But it is $150 to upgrade to the Ultimate License. But the advantage of the Ultimate License is, especially with the new players that might not be sure if they want to invest in Dungeons and Dragons or any tabletop RPG that is compatible with Fantasy Grounds, for example, it allows the players to download the demo for free. And due to the fact that you have the Ultimate License, you're now able to host for those players. So even though they got a free account, you can host games for them. And of course, since you probably have downloaded the Player's Hand Guide, the Dungeon Master Manual, and the Monster Manual, you can share all that stuff with them while you're online, so they can build a character. As long as you're online with them, they have access to the books that you allow them to see, and then they can actually join the game, and you can actually run adventures for them, and they don't have to pay a dime. But then again, like I said, if players aren't willing to put forth the money, I have a hard time thinking that most won't actually be there long term. But it's a great feature for a party if they want to just invest in the Ultimate License completely and just have like one owner. And then of course you can, like, if you're not being the DM, then you can use the if somebody's not being the DM, then they're like, well, you can run the Ultimate License while I'm just using the free version, and back and forth, back and forth. But the really great thing about this is it makes DMing a lot easier because there's a lot of automation going on. Now, the hard part is with local games, it's kind of hit and miss. You're going to have some automation, especially when it comes to running the characters that you're running, like all the enemies and stuff. But when it comes to your players, a lot of people think it's sacrilegious, and I can understand why. But they want to physically roll the dice. So once they roll the dice, then it's like, okay, you got to do all that crap. What then that allows them to do is you then have to manually input what they've done. But the cool thing is, especially for upkeep and stuff, you can actually open up a second version of the software and have it run on another monitor. So what's the advantage there? Well, that allows you to take the second version and make it a player, and then the player can join your game. And essentially what that does then is at a local game, you can have a TV laying on its side on the top of the table, and then you can actually then blow up the map, and then you can actually do it like you're actually doing it in the old school, where you got your miniatures and you're doing all that jazz. But of course, the cool thing is all the maps are already done, especially if you have a bought adventure. So that's the kind of sucky thing about this whole digital thing is, I like having a physical book so I can read it, and I can go back and forth and do all that jazz. I like to be able to, when it comes to a book that I want to study, I have to be able to, I have to have a physical book so I can flip back and forth and recall stuff. Some people can do that with PDFs and they don't have a problem. They'll just search for a term that they're looking for, and that's fine with them. I don't know why, but that works on certain occasions. But occasionally, I'm just like, I know where it's at in a book because I've been using the book and I kind of know where stuff's at. So I don't mind digging through a book when it comes to stuff that I want to study. But again, If you want to support your local gaming stores, they're going to have it at retail price. Each one of these D&D books are $50. They're not cheap. And are they worth $50? When I started playing D&D, I lived in Tennessee, and it was back when they announced. Uh, uh, it wasn't too long after I bought my 3.0 books that they announced 3.5. So it sucks because I bought the 3.0 books and then they upgraded to 3.5, and my books were almost immediately out of date. Even though you could still use them, but there's still subtle differences in that. There's enough subtle differences that they had to make it a 3.5 book. So, and they were $30. That to me is a decent price for the books because they're hardback and but they're not thick. They're And of course, with Dungeons and Dragons, unlike Pathfinder, Pathfinder's really cool because when you bought the uh the the base book, the base book came with the player's handbook and the Dungeon Master Guide all in one. Where Dungeons and Dragons has continued to go with the standard method of having the player's handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide separately. And when you are talking about money and these books being $50 a pop, that's $150 for a DM just to get started. So obviously, what I always suggest, and I know it's cruel, because local stores do need help, and you do want to support them because they allow you to have a community of all the stuff that you might actually like. But man, $50, that's rough for me anyway. So sadly to say, I buy mine on Amazon. I just can't. If I could afford $50 without any questions, I would do it, but I can't. So roughly, on average, you can get the books $30 on Amazon. You might have some that are a little bit more pricier just due to, I'm not sure why, whether they're not being purchased or they're more popular. I don't know. But actually, I want to say right now on Amazon, the player's handbook is maybe $22. I could be wrong. The Dungeon Master's Guide a while back was, I think, that cheap, and I wish it was still that cheap because I actually just ordered it and I paid the $30 then. So that kind of sucks. But anyway, back to this. So yeah, I like the physical D&D books, but with the advantage of Fantasy Grounds is being able to enjoy the automation and stuff. But there's no automation if you don't have anything there. So, I mean, there's your basic automation and your basic role set. They have a generic role set that you can use and make your own game. But typically people are like, oh, I want to play Dungeons and Dragons, or I want to play Pathfinder, or I want to play Starfinder, or whatever the case may be. So, with Fantasy Grounds, you have to buy each one of those books again. So if you're like me, you're spending a lot of money. Now, luckily, you can buy this stuff over time. Like I've now have all three of the core books. So I got the Monster Manual, the Player's Hand Guide, and the Dungeon Master's Guide, and I've had those for a couple months now. And I'm now just getting to my first adventure. So I did buy my Tomb of Annihilation adventure for it, and now it's just a matter of, while I'm still doing this adventure, choosing the next adventure that I might want to play, and then purchasing that whenever it's comfortable. So it's once you actually have everything set up, it doesn't feel so bad, but it sucks when you're like having to get up and running. Where it's like, for me, I have to have the physical book, and then I have to buy the digital version for the Fantasy Grounds. But the automation is sweet. Basically, if I want to attack somebody with an enemy, all I gotta do is essentially pick an attack and drag and drop it over a character that I want to attack. It does the attack and it says whether I've hit or miss, and then of course, then I do the physical damage, and I do it the same thing, just swipe it and all that stuff. When you buy actual adventures, they got stuff called parcels, and basically, well, they got encounters, they got parcels, they got quests. All this stuff is already in the actual physical book, but they have it laid out where it's actually in digital format too. But the advantage is with the with the physical game, if you actually were doing it on tabletop, you would literally have to go through and trudge through the annoying part where it's going to say this encounter has 5 goblins and 1 goblin shaman. And then guess what you have to do? It doesn't tell you anything else, from what I gather. I haven't really dug into this, and since this is my first adventure, yeah, I need to actually dig into it a little bit more. But from what I've been looking at, there's not a whole lot of stats besides the back of the book. Now, the back of the book has some stuff that isn't in the Monsters Manual, so that's why there's stats in the back of this book. But I don't see like stats or even like stats throughout the actual book. It's just a lot of words, and you'll occasionally see a map for like a battle map and stuff. So when you go into the adventure tab in Fantasy Grounds, it's got your certain like checkpoints. So when the players get to this certain section, you know to bring up that encounter, and basically you'll have a little section, probably most likely, that you'll read, or you can actually do your own thing because you're the DM. You can do whatever the heck you want. You can make the story your own. And what's also cool is, on top of being able to read that thing, you can then actually move it over into the chat window and throw it over there. So what's cool is you get to read it, and then you actually got a physical representation that players can look at. The cool part is like the person like jotting down the story. There's always usually somebody jots down the story with like names and stuff. They don't have to keep on saying, "Excuse me, Dungeon Master, what was the guy's name?" or "Where is that place?" It's like, look, it's right here. It's all the information is right here. You don't even have to ask me. Just keep on, just do your writing. So it has a physical representation right there. And then on top of that, it's actually got the encounter right below it. And it usually, and what it'll have is it'll have a battle map, if there's a battle map available. So right there, you click on it. You just click on that battle map. Bingo, it pops up. Now, you typically, most likely, you would probably want to do maybe a mask. A mask allows you to put a fog of war over the entire map. And then as your characters start exploring the map, you slowly reveal the entire map. Now, then you got the actual the battle. And that will also be there as a whatchamacallit, a link. So all you gotta do is click on that link. It'll show you all the enemies that are in that thing. Like I think I said 5 goblins and a shaman goblin. It'll have that right in there. And all you gotta do, because you spent the money to have this adventure put into Fantasy Grounds, all those goblins and stuff are right where they're supposed to be already. and then you basically just click a button. They'll show up automatically on your map. They're hidden, and until your characters actually like physically see them, then you can start revealing them as they're visible. They'll also automatically go on a combat tracker. They'll automatically have automatic rolled initiative. Everything's just pretty much beautiful. And the same way as it is for when you're doing rewards. When you're doing rewards, you got your parcels. The parcels are basically uh, gold, uh, swords, armor, whatever. It'll do that automatically. Now, the armor, all the like physical stuff that you can use, like rings, armor, swords, all that stuff, you need to assign to a player. But usually, when you're DMing, you'll basically say at the end of the battle or whatever, this is what the goblins had on them, and of course, automatically your players are going to most likely be saying, "Oh man, what is that? I want that." So right away, you can kind of get an idea of who's getting what, and then you just type in their name, and then once you actually hit the button to actually give that to people, all the weapons and armor and stuff will go to the individual people that needed it or wanted it. So it's cool. So you'll never ever ever have to say, okay, you guys got this many gold, this much gold, and then you're like, all the players are like, well, how much do I get? You don't have to worry about that. The computer does it all. So it's really nice and easy for everything. And the great part is everything's being tracked. So you know exactly what encounter you've done. So you don't have to worry about, if they go back to the place, you can see whether you've done that encounter or not. And that's something to kind of worry about that you might not think about is, let's say you've been gone for a couple months. You couldn't get the party together for a couple months. You go back, you start exploring, and then they decide to go to a location that you've already been to, and not thinking, you run that encounter again when you didn't need to. So stuff like that's really important. It also keeps track of everything that they got, all their gold that they ever got, all the valuables, what stuff is in each person's packs. Sorry. I don't think they can see that stuff. I needed to start like looking at the player side and seeing what they can do and what they can't do. But for the most part, I don't believe that they can see that. But it's a nice thing when uh there's always the people that are like, didn't we have a healing potion? Who's got the healing potion? I don't know. I thought somebody had the healing potion. Now, as a DM, you can say, "Hey, you guys got healing potions." And of course, naturally, whenever you use a healing potion in the game, now this is going to be the more difficult thing because I want to start doing this, but naturally, I need to figure out how to do it because they're wanting to do. I would really like them to all. They can roll the physical dice all they want, but I would really like to get the players all having laptops and using Fantasy Grounds as their character sheets. Now, I know that might be not a realistic thing, but I would like it to be like that. Because then they can actually hit when they use a healing potion, for example, it automatically gets removed from their game, and it says it's been used, and then it won't be ever be available there. So that's going to be the little bit difficult thing. So we will have to start worrying about like, make sure you remove that from the digital version as well. But overall, I think it's going to be a pretty smooth a thing for me as a first time DM. and just due to the fact that I don't have to like research and stuff, I don't need to prep like an actual real DM where he's having to go to the monster manual, go through the dungeon master's guide, go to the actual adventure book and constantly go back and forth and like build these encounters that are already set up in the book, but because they don't have all the information, you need to like grab stuff from here and from there. It's just yeah. So it's gonna be awesome. So basically, all I need to do is focus on the story itself. If they're going to go to that location, I need to just basically have a general idea of what's going on, so I'm not fumbling through that possible encounter of that story. Or I can roleplay characters the way that I would hope to do it instead of just kind of fumbling through it. I think you get the idea, but we're going to do this at the end of July. It's looking. Uh, I want to be a good DM. I want to do voices. I want to do. I want to be very descriptive. I want to feel like the battles are real. I don't know how many times, just with me playing other people's games, most DMs, it seems like it's like, hey, you hit, roll damage. All right, I did 10 damage to it, and that's it. I want to be like, you know, as the orc lifts up his hand as he's comes crashing down with the mace. You slide your sword right into its rib cage, and blood just squirts out, leaving its very vulnerable armor on the side open. So I wanna do like that type of describing a battle when people are fighting. I don't want to just do, oh, so and so gets hit. This is how much damage. Uh, I even when like disarming traps, I don't want to say you disarm the trap. I want to be descriptive. Depending on what type of trap, if is it a tripwire? Is it a um oh I don't know what the heck you want to call it. One ones that you would like step on. Uh, Pressure plate. There we go. I want to describe how those people are disarming it. Uh, but we'll see because the voices are going to be the hardest because when even the newest uh game that we were playing, I actually got we had to do two characters because we're only there's the DM and then there's only three of us right now, and I would like to only do three characters in my adventure, but something tells me that's just not going to work. So I had already advised that basically when you guys are doing when they are doing their watches for when they go to sleep, there's going to be you always have to have a watch just in case anything happens. There's only going to be you roughly you do three watches. You do your night, then you do your I guess dawn, and then morning, whatever. I don't know. But basically, you make sure everybody gets some rest, but there's always somebody watching at night. Sometimes during the day, who knows? Uh so that would mean there's only one person doing that watch at any given time, and when there's the possibility of somebody being charmed or enchanted or have an illusion on them, it's basically the party gets jumped uh pretty easily. So I said, you guys, if they feel like making more characters, they can. But I didn't like, I wasn't too big of a fan of running two characters all the time because I couldn't actually, I didn't feel like I was good at role playing two. And then on top of that, my voice. I was hoping I could really get the voice out, because after like listening to Critical Role, and if you haven't listened or watched or listened to Critical Role, you should go on YouTube or find your favorite podcast app and search for Critical Role and start listening or watching the show. It's a little rough when you're actually listening to it on computer speakers for the first campaign, so I would actually start with the second campaign. Also, because it's also not too far ahead. They're on episode 20, but the other first campaign's like 120 episodes or something like that. But when you literally have each show being like 4 hours, it's a little shorter on the actual podcast, because with the live broadcast and they actually do the live broadcast when they'll throw it over on YouTube and they won't edit it. There's they do a lot of advertising and a lot of this and a lot of that. So with the podcast, they cut all that out, so there's a lot less uh garbage. It's not really garbage. It helps them continue what they're doing, but it takes a lot of time out. I would at least say probably 45 minutes to an hour probably out of the on the podcast. So it's roughly around 3 hours. But very, very good. You almost forget sometimes that you're actually listening to people play Dungeons and Dragons. You almost get, you know, swept off into the story, because the cool thing is it's a group of voice actors, so that's what they do. They act and they do different voices. So it's a really, really good it's definitely one of those things where I'm like, if you want to introduce people to D&D to see what D&D is like, or any of the tabletop RPGs, Critical Role's a really great one, because it it's almost it's kind of false advertising, because that's not how it is typically. Most DMs and players aren't like that, but that is the potential for, if you ask me, for being a tabletop gamer. And that is my goal for this adventure, and just being a DM in general. I know I will not be a Matt Mercer, but I'm going to try my best to be the John, the best John DM that I can be. So that's the goal. Getting into DMing. So a little nervous, but I'm excited too. If anybody wants to actually know more about Fantasy Grounds, let me know through email or whatever, and I will let you know more about it. In fact, I still might want to try to get some distant friends to play a long distance game, since I have that ability now that I have the Ultimate license. But anyway, let's get on to news. All right. Let me get a little organized here. All right. Doing stuff a little bit different. All right. Bungie gets 100 million for a new non-Destiny game. I don't really know how this works. I guess because they're not a part of Activision, it doesn't really matter, but it feels like this this Chinese publisher, NetEase, they're kind of like trying to say, hey, get away from Activision and start doing your own games, and here's $100 million to do it. My thing is, I haven't been impressed with Bungie at all. I haven't played like some of their original games, but overall, I was never impressed with Halo. But then again, I was playing like Battlefield 1942 at the time Halo came out, so I'm like, that's, I guess, kind of cool that consoles got a game that people like, but I was I was doing computer at that time, and I guess when I look back at Bungie, I'm like, and I look at GoldenEye. GoldenEye was, I guess, my first like introduction to console first-person shooters, like the first kind of like real good attempt. And I say real good. I say that back then, but now you play GoldenEye and you're like, these controls are horrendous. So but when I like think about it logically, I'm like, I get it. This was the first attempt at a quality, good controlling first person shooter. And they did a good job as far as that's concerned. But as far as the actual game, I just think it's boring. I think even with Destiny, their enemies, they're so childish looking. They don't. I don't feel intimidated at all. None of the enemies in Destiny or Halo are intimidating at all. I want to be afraid when I'm, fighting aliens. You look at freaking Doom. Doom, it's like, oh crap. I realize they're not necessarily aliens. They're apparently from hell and all that jazz. But it's like, come on, step it up. Alien, the movie, you know, made the idea of aliens scary. And when you got this idea of uh, being invaded, you want these things to be scary. And I'm just like, I'm supposed to be afraid of this? I don't know. And then the actual, like, Halo, the actual characters, and even Destiny characters, they just look generic and boring. Maybe that's why I'm just not a sci-fi fan. I look at a lot of that stuff and I'm just like, this is cheesy and generic. Now, what some company or people have done though is they've combined a little bit of everything. Like that's why I think Star Wars is, well, maybe not the new stuff, but Star Wars originally, it had that element of like, yes, this is sci-fi, but you have something relatable to in your own little world. It's like, oh, I get it. There's lightsabers. It's a sword. Uh, you got your like clothes that look kind of humanistic. Uh, Not all these futuristic armor sets and all that stuff. You get some of that, but it's more like Star Wars has got like a Final Fantasy element. Like there's the sci-fi, and then there's the like medieval fantasy to it. Then you got and they got like a Firefly like in there too, where it's like kind of cowboyish as well. So that's where I think I like sci-fi. When I don't like sci-fi is when it's like this, when it's purely futuristic and it's to me it's just boring. Uh but yeah, congrats to Bungie, and I would actually kind of like them see them do something other than another space sci-fi shooter. So hopefully they'll take that $100 million and do something actually good. But who knows? What else do we got? All right. Bethesda announces Fallout 76. I don't know what the heck Bethesda's doing. I almost think they're just turning into another just game developer that just churns out crap. This doesn't seem to be anything that I'd be interested in. It seems from what everybody's kind of said, it's kind of going to be kind of like an Ark/Rust Fallout survival type game. And I mean, I guess if that's your thing, cool. But it's definitely not anything I'm interested in. I mean, for the most part, didn't we already have that with the the little mobile vault game. That's kind of like your thing. You're trying to survive and keep the vault running, and you got invaders that occasionally will attack. But yeah, overall, not really interested in it. What I would like to see them do, and I was just kind of pointing that out. It's funny that I actually said I'm not a big sci-fi fan, but I'm like, they've done the Elder Scrolls, so you got your medieval, you got Fallout, you got your post-apocalyptic thing. It would be kind of nice if they actually made an actual like sci-fi RPG with this. Well, I would hope the new engine that they're supposedly working on. And I love how people are like, I want the new Elder Scrolls game. It's like, well, you need to give them time. They're working. I don't know why they're working on a new engine. I don't know much about engines. As I'm learning to program, I'm hoping to understand how engines work a little bit more, and why they say certain engines aren't good for this but are good for that. But I'm like, we already have really good quality engines out there. You don't really need to build a whole nother engine. It's almost like they just don't want to pay anybody, but yet they're going to pay the actual developers, aka Bethesda, thousands, if not maybe millions of dollars to get this new engine up and running, when you could have just maybe possibly used Unreal Engine. I don't know. I don't know how all that stuff works. I don't know if Unreal Engine's one of them things where it's really great for single or multiplayer type games, but in open world, it's just too taxing. I don't know. But it would be kind of nice if they would just use an already built engine so they can actually just focus on the game. But that's not the way they're working, so we have to wait for them to build their engine and move forward with that. Okay, this one I'm going to have to try to be as quick as possible. I just kind of wanted to go over this real quick, but we're getting kind of late into the podcast. We're going on 50 minutes now. So I'm going to try to get through with this real quick. I wanted to just point out all the games that have been kind of announced that, just real quick, from the main developers. There's some other stuff that's already been from third party people that we don't really. I don't know. We'll go down the list and see if I can't see any that I might find interesting. So, Electronic Arts, what they've have confirmed is Anthem, Battlefield 5. This website that I'm actually getting this off of, they're like confirmed games, and then they're like Anthem, Battlefield 5, new mobile games, new sports games. Then it's not confirmed. If you're not being detailed, it's not confirmed. Yes, there's almost guaranteed that there's going to be those things, but unless you're not telling me that it's specifically FIFA 2019, or I don't even know what mobile games that they got. And apparently they're going to have more content for Sims 4. I didn't think Sims 4 was a thing anymore. Microsoft. They got one thing. They got one definite thing. They got Forza Horizon 4. Now, they have been apparently working on a new Fable since they got rid of the old Fable team and the actual development company that had worked on it, Lionhead. I'm sick and tired of not hearing anything about I'm sick and tired of hearing stuff about Crackdown 3. I don't even know how they made it to 3, because I bought the original one when it came out only because it had a Halo demo on it, so I was kind of curious about the Halo demo. Wasn't impressed with the Halo demo. Also wasn't impressed with Crackdown. But somehow they made it to Crackdown 3, and this thing, I feel like it's been announced that it was coming since the original Xbox One. For some reason, they haven't canceled this game, but they canceled Fable and that other medieval dragon game thing. I forget what it was called. and there's something with Halo. I saw something on Reddit that said something about uh, I forget what it said, but basically somebody had pointed out it might be that they're bringing the Master Chief Collection to the PC. And I'm like, well, that makes sense with the horrible, horrible failure that was Sea of Thieves. It might have been a good idea because it's a quick way to make money. It's like the most people have been, most PC people have been waiting for, you know, a Halo to actually come to PC. So it would make sense. So that's easy money and kind of get back on track from the failure that is Sea of Thieves. Microsoft has just been doing horrible, horrible this whole generation, and I don't know how people stick up for the system. It's just that's the thing. It's not even the system. It's Microsoft. They're like, here's our system. Now, where's the games? Where's the games? Why do I need to buy an Xbox to play a game that I can play on any other PC or PlayStation? It makes no sense. Just because you like the controller? Well, I can use an Xbox controller on my PC. Thank you. There's possible suggestions on Gears of War 5. Again, Gears of War 4 kind of just came and went. At least on the PC side, I don't think a whole lot of people cared. They played it and then they're like, that's kind of cool, I guess. I never liked Gears of War. But there's also possibly a Halo Unity. I'm not sure what that even is, but there is a possibility of a new Halo game of some sort. That's rumored. Bethesda, of course, we got Fallout 76, we got Rage 2, and Elder Scrolls Legends. What is Elder Scrolls? Is that the is Elder Scrolls Legends the card game? I think it is. But anyway, I'm not really concerned about the card games. Square Enix, Kingdom Hearts 3. I don't know what is going on with Square. The Square part of Square Enix, anyway. I don't know what's taking them so long to develop these games. I mean, they're lucky Final Fantasy 15 did as well as it did, but it's like, if it didn't, would we even get Kingdom Hearts 3? Would it continue with production? Because it's just, wow, what's taking them so long to do everything? We got Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So we got the third Tomb Raider game out of the reboot, which is cool. I should probably beat one of those one time. I get so far and then I just stop. Ubisoft's got some it's sad that Ubisoft has turned around to kind of be one of the things that I start to look for, despite the fact that they do a whole lot of typical stuff with the whole, hey, this game's open world. Oh, this game's open world. This game's open world. Hey, guess what? They all got watchtowers that you got to climb. So they've announced that apparently Assassin's Creed Odyssey, again, stupid move if you ask me. I think they should skip a year every time. Beyond Good and Evil 2. For Honor. Skull and Bones. Starlink Battle for Atlas. Tom Clancy's Division 2. Transference. Sony. Death Stranding. Dreams. Ghosts of Tsushima. Spider-Man, and The Last of Us Part 2. The only one I'm care about as of right now is Death Stranding. Nintendo, they got Splatoon 2. I guess more extra stuff there. And more info about Super Smash Brothers, the the game for that. Now here's the other games. They're just in general. I'll go down the list and see if there's anything I like. Adventure Time game, A Plague Tale. A Plague Tale. Huh. Innocence. I'm not sure what that is, but I like the idea of plague. Call of Cthulhu. That has me interested. Black Ops 4. Don't care. Call of Guardians. Don't know what that is. CG Projects Red's new game. Likely Cyberpunk 2077. That I'm definitely interested in. Defender's Quest, Valley of the Forgotten, DX. Farming Simulator 19. Fear the Wolves. Fortnite. Galax 6, Variant S. Greedfall, Insurgency Sandstorm, Mega Man 11. I don't think I'm interested in that. I think it's just going to be another Mega Man. They're not going to do anything really interesting. Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, Oblets. I'm still waiting for Monster Hunter World for PC. I'll play it then. Yeah, so Oblets, Roller Coaster Tycoon Switch, Sable, Serious Sam 4, Spin Tires, Mud Runner, Strange Brigade, Street Fighter V Arcade Edition. Didn't they already? I guess they're just going to like new content. The Surge 2, Team Sonic Racing, and Vampire. But Vampire's already out. It came out the other day, which actually I'm kind of excited about that. I didn't actually point that out, but I didn't realize that it was from Don't Nod, this Vampire game. So it's the people that did Life is Strange. So I'm actually going to probably buy it, not now, but at some point, just due to the fact that it's from the Don't Nod, aka Life is Strange people. All right. Now that we're done that, let's go to another story, which I'm happy about. Jason Momoa and director Corin Hardy drop out of the Crow remake. I hope they don't even make the movie. The movie doesn't even need to be made. It's annoying that they would even attempt to make it. It's still a good movie. I can understand if something has aged badly or it's just not relevant, so they need to, make it more modern to make it a little bit more relevant to today's age. But it's fine. People get it. There's not anything to make it not relevant. It's gothy. It's got gangs. It's got violence. It is what it is. You don't need to like, oh, well, they're talking on phones with cords. That doesn't really matter. I'm just using that as an example. I don't know if there actually is, but I'm sure there is some sort of phone calling and stuff. And I'm sure there's going to be cords, maybe. They could be using the wireless, phones. But, yay. And hopefully they won't be able to get this back up and running to begin with. Because I don't want it to be a thing. All right. So that's that. And now we're going to move on to a movie review. So I saw Solo. I think it was last Thursday. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it is. There's no, well, there is a surprise, but overall, there's not anything really surprising in general about the story. It kind of just told you beat for beat all the stuff that you kind of knew about because they mentioned it originally in the original Star Wars. So you do get to meet, hey, Han met Chewie. They did the Kessel Run. He got the ship from Lando. There's nothing. And even at the very end of the film, I'm not spoiling it because we already know what's happening at the end of the film. He gets news of a bad dude on Tatooine that needs a job done, aka Jabba the Hutt. So, that's kind of the end of the film. Again, nothing new, nothing, but they still ended up making it interesting to some people said they could read every beat of the film. I thought they did a good job just due to the fact that you got these smuggler pirate type things. You got the backstab and just constantly trying to one up each other all throughout the movie. So I had some surprises there that I'm like, oh, cool, because they could have went very boring, but they kind of made it interesting. So there was some surprises to me anyway. The actor who played Han, I think he did an okay job. He had some of the he did the mannerisms that Han or that Harrison Ford would do. He had the kind of like the shoulders back and having his hands on his waist type of thing that Han's got going on all the time. So he did that. Occasionally, just the way he would say things, it definitely had a Harrison Ford vibe to it. But other times, it's like this guy is trying to be Han Solo. He isn't Han Solo. So it happens. It happens. Donald Glover, I thought, did an amazing job as Lando. I think he had the vibe, the suave, the chill factor all going for him. His droid actually, I kind of was like the I guess comic relief of the film, and of course the droid was the social justice warrior aspect of the film. To me, it wasn't a bad thing that the droid was actually focusing on, because in the future we will have to deal with this, and it's not like some people might think it's a non-issue because it's a non-living thing to a certain extent, but the droid's always pointing out that, hey, I would like equal rights because I'm a droid, and I guess because droids are self-aware and all that stuff. And Deus Ex has been kind of going down that Deus Ex isn't droids, but it's still talking about humans that have been augmented into basically what do you call it? Cyborg? Yeah, cyborg. So the idea is, don't we get equal rights? Why are we getting treated like crap because we're augmented and stuff like that? So, but I think that's a little bit more easier to swallow because there's still a human flesh behind the augmentation, where a droid is a droid. And yeah. So you have that aspect of it that people might be like, well, this is a non-issue, but I still think if AI gets to be where it is, and at least we can control it so they won't take over the world. I don't believe we can, but if we could actually somehow find a way to make sure that droids don't they have like a morality built into their AI. I don't know how I'm sure you could do it, but I think if you built morality into a droid, AK or robot, whatever you want to call it, I think they would be better at controlling their self than humans are, because sometimes we get blinded and our morality goes out the window with certain things, whether it's lust or anger. I don't think we've ever had a problem with happiness. But one of the things I actually laughed out loud was well, I forget what Lando was doing, but Lando was having to go back in the ship to go do something, and before he leaves, he tells us, asks his droids like, "Hey, do you need anything?" And just like nonchalant, she's like, uh, I th- I think she just said equal rights, and I'm like, I just started laughing because I'm like, it was so like smooth and off the top. It wasn't like obviously she's the droid is being serious, but she's doing it in a very dry, sarcastic way that she knows that that is not going to happen, but still funny. Now, to get to the the whole thing that they pointed out on a lot of websites is they announced that Lando is pansexual now. And they didn't make a big deal out of it in the film, but they just nonchalantly, the droid actually pointed out that uh, I forget what her name was, but basically the girl who's in Game of Thrones, Emilia Clarke, I think her name is. Uh, she was talking to the droid, and she basically was like, I don't think a droid and a human, or I guess any living thing, can actually have I don't think it would work as like in a relationship. And all she said was, "Oh, it works." So it basically just nonchalantly pointed out to the fact that yes, you could take it one way as like, she believes that those relationships are possible, or you could take it into the fact that because we have the news that Lando is pansexual, that they've had some sort of intercourse at some point in time. So there's that. Uh, Woody Harrelson's character, he's cool, but for the most part, it's basically just Han's mentor. It's Han has a little bit of rebellious to him, but I think if it wasn't for Woody's character, he wouldn't actually moved further into that pirate type, smuggler type world, and Woody's character kind of moves him into that lifestyle. Uh, the end though, not the super end, but the end where you start to get down to the uh you hit the climax. That's where the surprise is, and I think maybe a lot of people already know if they've actually went online. I was surprised that if I didn't actually like look at comments, for the most part, there's there would have been no spoilers for me, but I did get spoiled before I actually watched the movie, and I was actually doubting it for a second that what I read was actually true, and it actually did turn out to be true. But I'm not going to spoil it. But the cool thing is, near the end, they actually set it up that this can be a starting point for certain characters to go off and do something else that doesn't have to pertain to the Skywalker family. So, and that's been my biggest issue kind of with the new series. I know they're trying to wrap it up, but I mean, even Rogue One was good. It was original, but there was nothing new. We kind of know everything about Rogue One. So a group of people got the Death Star plans, and in the original Star Wars, they just said a lot of people died. How many people died? Well, we now know everyone, but overall, we kind of had the gist of the thing. A lot of people died. They got the Star Wars plans. We didn't really need to actually make a movie to see how it actually happened. But overall, it was a good film, but it was still focused on the original trilogy. And then, of course, we have the now 7 and 8, and then we're going to have 9. That's all kind of about still continuing the Star Wars uh, Skywalker type saga. And of course, I guess if nobody's watched, if you haven't watched the the Last Jedi, uh, funny thing, I actually bought it. I still have not watched it all the way through. It's the only one that I haven't been able to watch it all the way through because I just don't care about it. Uh, but that basically has killed off everybody. The only person that's alive now from the original trilogy is Leia. But obviously Carrie Fisher's dead, so yeah. I don't know how they're really gonna do that unless they're gonna like do a time jump or whatever. But overall, yes, the original Skywalker thing is done and over with now. So we could finally move on there, but from the way the story's going, I don't care. They're just like making messy decisions to me, and I'm not one of those people. It's like I had in my head this is what's going to happen. I didn't really know. I actually typically am very trailer free for the most part. In fact, I wouldn't even seen the solo trailers if it wasn't for watching other movies in the theater. So I try to stay pretty spoiler free when it comes to this type of stuff. But yeah, I'm excited if they actually do a movie that's going to continue the story of two characters that they have at the end of Solo that go off and do their own thing besides going to Tatooine. So anyway, yeah, I enjoyed it. Does it deserve its low box office? I don't think so. Uh, but I think people are a little bit scorned. There's multiple things with that. I would say it's also 100% partly to do with the advertising. It seemed to be very, very low advertised. But then again, I don't watch TV anymore. But I haven't even seen it like on YouTube, like when the advertisements pop up. I haven't seen trailers there. I haven't seen anywhere. I haven't even seen like I follow the Star Wars page on Facebook. I still don't even like I didn't even really see a lot of push there, like sponsored ads. I just don't know what the heck happened. I think they're just like, we're going to save some money advertising because it's a Star Wars film. We don't need to advertise. Like, yes, you do. So, anyway, I think that's the podcast for today. I'm going to upload it regular time, even though it's a day late for the live podcast. I am going to upload it on its regular time tomorrow. And yeah, I'll see y'all later. Bye.